At thehockeysite.com, it's about what happens in the locker room, thinking about the game. It's about planning and preparation, and about training and improving those skills, looking at it from different angles. But of course, it's also about teaching them to score and win. Thehockeysite.com. Share the knowledge.
So welcome to this Pool B fixture between England and Wales in the over 50 men's section of the 2022 World Cup here in Cape Town. A beautiful morning, the early morning start for both teams, but beautiful conditions for hockey as the pushback happens, and it's Wales who have possession. Wales playing from right to left in black, and England in their traditional white strip. So a high press from England early on, and Wales go for the aerial delivery. Possession back for England. So it's out to Oatley on the right half. Dunn in the central midfield position. So Paxton from the outside left half tries to play it into the midfield. So hit to England in a good position. It goes up high to Hammond, who continues a quick run, fires it into the circle, and the big swing. Looking for the ball loose. Laird just looking to pounce as the ball pops up into the D. Unfortunately, just can't get a touch on that. All the space to release the hit. So Sleeman from Wales upended. I'm sure there's no love lost between these two teams. Done. Avoth on the ball now. Pressure from Laird, the captain. Out wide now to Funnel. The big hit from Avoth comes in on the 45 degree, but Paxton moving in from his outside wing-back position and just covering that area of the field. So England go direct down the middle. Good into play. It's gone out wide. Oh, just loses his footing. It's Dover who slips, but the ball is still live. And the melee in the circle as Hammond tries to tidy up for England. Roberts goes long. Well dealt with as they move the ball out to Oatley. Good lead run from Laird, who beats his man. So good lead run, good pickup from Laird in the wide areas. Looking to run at the Welsh. The Welsh quite happy to try smash it down the middle of the field with that big crash ball, and they come back at England looking for support. The reverse stick pass comes in from Milbank, but he can't find the strike partner of Janich up front. He scored 2 goals in the last game. So Wales come off a 2-0 win against the United States. England come off a win versus Malaysia, 6-1 win. England have already scored 16 goals in this tournament. And Hammond did a lovely little touch and push into space. Just no connection there, but they still win the hit outside the D. So the quick pass outside the D, looking to win a corner for England. Well dealt with by Roberts. He loses the ball, unfortunately for them again. It's Paxton who goes wide, and just the collection from Oakley is on his reverse stick, and he was looking at forward on the front stick where he could move into space and drive down that right-hand side into the D. Just an awkward ball for him to collect. Sleeman, who just pops it through to Koloff. Koloff on the ball now. Just happy to hold possession now. Now they drive into those right outside areas. Crash ball comes in, but it comes off the post and it's still live. Paxton clears up. He does well and finds his captain Laird outside wide. He's scanning the field. He's looking for his high strikers, men getting into position. Oh, just a poor pass. You almost find that no one running towards the ball carrier to collect. And joining me in the commentary box in this fine morning is Simon Mason.
Morning. Apologies for Cape Town traffic on the way in. I would have been here at pushback, but got a little bit stuck. But great to be here. Two teams who know each other really, really well. England a little more dominant in terms of goals scored so far in this competition, but Wales will absolutely be looking to put a marker down.
So the fired in by Stokes, but well dealt with by the Welsh. Clark on the ball, trying to work his way, squirm his way through the Welsh defence. And now it's the Welsh that break out, and a lovely little ball through for Francis, who collects, has the shot, but it's wide.
Oh, it doesn't surprise me there's a little bit of a warning there, because the chase back tackle that came in from Steve Paxton was just a little bit loose. He's behind on the charge. I mean, the umpire did give the advantage, didn't he, for the shot, but you could easily have seen that as a corner.
So it's quite strange to see Steve Paxton in the colours of England. I happened to play SA Schools and SA Under-21 with him many years back. But good to see Ian Hammond on the field, who was my skipper at St Albans way, way back.
Fabulous. I mean, he's one of the top scorers in this side. Certainly the most experienced player, I believe, in terms of Masters international caps. I think he has 14 across the age groups, so certainly been around Masters international hockey. Superb player, was really incisive as a Premier League player, such pace. We joke about the fact that his hamstrings now aren't quite as strong as they used to be.
Well, I've still got his captain's log from back in the day. He used to write brilliant captain's log each week for St Albans, and we compiled them into a little booklet at the end of the season. It makes entertaining reading. So Brown collects the ball out wide, just a little bobble off his stick.
And they're the sort of 50-50 battles. That's what we're going to see. Neither side will give any quarter in this, because whilst England have been more dominant in terms of the games they play 3-1-3, Wales drawing one of theirs and winning the other. They're certainly physically the teams that want to go shoulder to shoulder.
So the Welsh have just come off a win against the United States of America, 2-0. They won that. England beating Malaysia 6-1. And quite an even spread of goals amongst the team. If you look down the goal scorers, the 16 goals that they have scored, well, there are at least 6 or 7 players have all scored 2, and even captain Laird has scored 3. So back to the action.
That's really good skill from Koloff, though, wasn't it? As Stevenson stepped into that tackle, Koloff just let the ball drift across his body, put a stick underneath it. Stevenson's tackle then looks worse than it actually is. I think the umpires read that really well. Andy Stevenson, now here's some history. He was one of 6 of us from the west of England who played England under 16s back in 1986. A Taunton schoolboy. And the 6 of us went through several of the age groups altogether. But yeah, so Steve I've known since both of us were wee lads.
Hammond does well. to get to Clark. Fires it in. No goal. Spectators' goal. But Hammond does well to come back into that area, pick the ball up, arc, eyes up, look for support.
Well, that's really, we've seen a couple of teams here, possibly some of the slightly less experienced teams. Oh, Stevenson goes in really hard. The less experienced teams who they play kind of a half-court defence really, and then leave one player up. And the problem with that is if you're then throwing that long ball, you're then 40 yards away from any support. So you're absolutely right with Hammond coming back in. You want your forwards post up, roll back, drop off, and then re-lead. Just brings more players in.
Yeah, it just creates space, and the timing of the run's so crucial. But as you say, trying to smash it down the middle, looking for these high-lying strikers, it's just what some teams do resort to. It just doesn't work.
God, Dover's gone through that tackle hard, and Kolof's gone to the turf. And they're more lenient in this competition. The interpretation of players going to the ground. I mean, if we watch the Pro League, etc., players going to the ground, and if there is impact on anybody else, regardless of the outcome of the actual hockey foul, if you go to ground and take somebody else down, it's a straight 10-minute yellow. And we've seen several of those. I've looked at and gone, oh, different competition. We'd be playing 8-on-8.
So Paxton with a diagonal ball intercepted by Wells, and they will look to break out. Looking for support now from deep. England get the midfield's heads down and struggles to find support there. Paxton again steps in nicely.
Nice little shovel on from Dover. That first time ball in, Stokes had found him going left to right across the turf.
And Morris does well, and he wins a corner for England. I think he was hoping to carry on and maybe dribble the keeper as well. He had gone through 2 or 3 tackles.
Well, that was a bizarre blow. You're looking at it and go, well, he's actually gone through, ridden the 2 tackles that were the penalty corner tackles. He's got the ball on the end of his stick and he's 5 metres off that near post, and then the whistle went. I'm slightly confused. However,
I'm sure he'd love to have fired it past the Welsh goalkeeper, Craig Jones.
on top of the circle, you've got Hayward at the top of the circle, who's a fabulous striker of the ball. Next to him, Avery, both old City of Portsmouth players. I think they're both playing for Old Georgians now in the Veterans League. Avery, lucky to be here 9 weeks ago, operation for a prolapsed disc in his back.
So it's Hayward off the top, strikes it just wide.
I think the goalie's got a toe on that as it's gone past. He's opened his hands beautifully, literally pulled through it. Really nice wristy hit, but I think the keeper's just got a tiny tip of those big kickers.
So you mentioned Old Georgians. They've done pretty well in recent years, coached by Michael Hughes.
Exactly, yeah. It wasn't long ago they were formed, something like, I'm going to say 95, 96, the actual club came into existence, and they then set themselves an objective of getting to Europe, which they've just done with their men's team playing in the EHL. Won their first game, lost their second, but yeah, fabulous.
Dover fires it in. And Avery picks up the ball, tries to get his shot away.
Avery's a proper old school centre forward, really wants to be a point player. Give it to me in the circle and he'll put a bat through absolutely anything. And that includes the defender in front of him.
Brown. Well, Michael Hughes played for Western Province Cricket Club. This is the very turf that he would have played on for a number of seasons when he was out here from England.
Well, I spoke to him before they went out to Hamburg, and he was talking about they wanted to be the best prepared team in EHL history, and even to the extent that the level of detail they went into to try and be successful. So they decided they would drive a car to Hamburg with all the playing kit in it, because if that went on the plane, the chance of that getting lost was just too high. So they wanted to make sure that every detail they could control, they did control, and fair play to them. And success in Europe takes a long time, and it's not a flash in the pan thing. So they've been in it once, and it's just given them an appetite to want to do more.
So Hammond on the ball, he turns, plays it out wide. Avery on the baseline, wins ball back again, finds the foot, reverse stick fired, comes in, yes, and Hammond gets the nudge in.
Well, we've commentated several times now, and it's often the miss-hit bobble that comes to something as much as the clean strike, and that's a miss-hit across the turf, but a lovely play in front of the body down into the bottom corner for Hammond.
Well, he sort of opens the bat and plays it down to third man into the goals. So 1-0 up to England. Hammond scores. It's almost as if the Welsh defence stopped, anticipating the whistle be blown for a high ball.
Correct, and it's one of those moments, isn't it? It's that classic cliche of just play the whistle. And it come in, it was Dave Rosie Oakley who floated it in through the top of the circle. It had taken a touch off a Welsh stick, it had bobbled up, then it gets the half hit, and so often players then just go, oh, actually that should be something, and then it isn't, and yeah, Hammond reacted best, as he did there, to keep that ball in play.
So England back on attack.
Stokes with a bit of anti-skill. He's missed what he was trying to do, but it's rolled harmlessly through. Wales, though, now look, because you're now 3 on 5, and this is where the midfield for Wales, or the test will be, have they got the physicality to get up the turf to support the front line?
Support here key. Players scanning the field, just can't find support. And it's Richards who continues his run. He looks for Farquharson up high. England just seem to have numbers all over the pitch, in the midfield, in the defence. And Wales just struggling to connect.
Yeah, I just applaud that clever little nudge from Roger Barlow. He's the most experienced player in this Welsh side as he stepped in there, just on the back, just a little elbow in the back, just influences the balance of the player in front of him. Laird, who couldn't quite keep on the right track to receive that. Well, look at the height of the England press of Avery right at the point of it, denying that transfer. And tactically, that makes things so difficult for Wales. England overloading one side of the pitch to get the pressure. If they can get it out, great. But they're going to need to either find a real channel, maybe between the two high strikers, or they've got to go over the top.
They've tried to use that crash ball, as you say. Nice little touch there from Bartlett. He finds Farquharson, but he just merely deflects it high into Brown. So England back or under pressure, but lovely skill once again from Dunn.
Quality over-the-top dummy. He's literally, I think the defender's got the receipt for that dummy. He bought it so early.
Well, he looks full of running.
Trevor Doan plays at Gloucester City. Again, West Country boy, someone I've known for years and years and years. Great take.
Good retrieve from Brown. And England look to attack in these wide areas, looking for some lead runners. He gets it. It's Oakley, he hits the baseline, forces the hit, wins England a hit outside the D. He would probably try and transfer the ball out of this area with Brown looking for support. Avery tries to work his way through the congested area. And as the hooter goes, it's a goal from Hammond that separates the two sides. Please join us after the break. So we're about to start the second quarter. So England are first in this pool with a goal difference of 14. They've got a game in hand with Germany, and Germany are up next against Malaysia. Germany have a goal difference of 16. When you start looking towards the playoffs on Sunday, you'll start thinking, well, someone's got to cash in.
It's that interesting conversation. Always is that interesting conversation, because in the other pool you've got Spain and South Africa in those top two positions, and therefore you look at it and you go, right, is there a preference? But unlike the kind of major world competitions where there's history and there's, you know, what the squads are, a South African squad at home is very different to a South African squad away due to the nature of the players having to be self-funded, who can afford to go to the fabulous places that these tournaments are held. So there's less relevance because it's unknown what the quantity of the opposition really is, other than what you see during the course of the tournament. So for either side, winning the pool, I think, is more about the sporting momentum that gives you and wanting to be top of the pool, because it's a good place to be emotionally.
So a little deflection from Hammond. It nearly finds Morris up high. So high press again. You can see how the England side step up almost in the sort of saucer formation.
It is so high. Avery right on the edge of that circle. It's a good strike out though. Ball taken back into his stance and delivered. Mark Avoth from the top of the circle, looking to get a good hit away. And sometimes with those presses, you have to be brave. There is a metre or two, and if you're hesitant and just try and pop it and float it through that channel, it goes nowhere. You need to properly put a bat through it. Go back to your basic skills, your distribution.
Brown to Clark. And here's that good platform that you always talk about, Simon.
That's a lovely strike from Hayward. Sees the lead out to that right-hand side of Nick Morris. They know because of the pace of the hit, and it's not a full-blooded hit. It's a measured pass through. Hayward's missed that one though.
So Jaheg passes it out wide to Lindley. Lindley, the captain of the side, 1 goal to his name in this tournament.
Well, listening to the quarter-time chats on the bench down beneath is what was interesting is that Neil Pendle, who's normally one of the players inside, who's injured, he did his hamstring about 10 days before the tournament started, so it's unlikely he'll take part. He's helping with some of the coaching, and he was really aggressive with his team, suggesting that England were running at the Welsh players, and they needed to just simply run round and one more pass around the top of the circle. And at times it certainly did feel they were going direct in kind of that 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock segment around the top of the D, and they need to find the T-spots.
Quite right. Sometimes going into those congested areas where there was an easier option. So one by England from the 16-yard hit. They use the deflection wide again, and the shot comes in and it hits the post. So Laird gets himself into a great position and tries that little squeeze over the keeper.
Oh, the only question I do on that is, has he squeezed it or has he sliced underneath it? Because if he'd squeezed, I mean, you see what he's trying to do. Laird. Yeah. The Welsh actually changed their goalkeeper, which we didn't pick. So it's Adrian Hibbert who's come in, changing for the second quarter. It was a lovely little first-time ball from Avery, who is superb at that kind of pass.
So here we see the card coming out, a green card for England.
Avery who's picked it up, actually.
So he's off for 2 minutes. Avoth plays it out wide again, looking for ball into the central areas, into the midfield area, but he decides to play out wide to Dunn. Avoth just losing it, but they gain it back again. Lead run out wide for Wales, who fires it across circle, looking for the right outside striker coming in on that sort of far post area. But just no one arrives for Wales.
Well, as Trevor Doan finds that ball cleared out, I'm pretty certain he hadn't mistaken his substitute on the side of the pitch, who was walking along for an actual teammate. That's a nice ball into the top of the D, looking for Koloff just to try and deflect that. The same sort of first-time angle touch that Avery's been doing at the other end.
So Hammond keeps it in. Looks for Clark down the left-hand side. Clark does well to actually keep the ball, but can't find a pass, and the ball's out. And Clark does well to get into those areas and sort of balloon out of that.
He's covering a huge amount of turf off the ball, isn't he? We've seen him through those midfield channels, and to go from a central position out into that high left pocket, popping back in, it does feel like England have got pretty strong rotations through that midfield block.
And the runs from Morris and Avery have been good into space. And now Clark also making those lateral runs into space. So an unforced error there from Richie. England restart from the left-hand touchline. And they go over the top, looking for Hammond. Hammond collects just pretty high, but he controls things, gets it into the circle, finds the foot. Hammond again. Will he fire? He gets the shot away. Doesn't get enough connection on it, but it's saved off the line.
Well, that's a great take. Richie's picked that off the line as it's come across. The umpire's given a corner, suggesting the ball off Richie was dangerous. I don't think it hit anything at all. He's saying that's exactly the direction from the umpire. He's saying the ball that came back off the line went through congestion. A little bit harsh, because...
So Morris had quite a bit of time, and he almost felt like he was sort of on the back foot there, rather than he could have powered that ball more. He had a lot of time, could have collected it, powered it over into the goals. He sort of was off balance when shooting there.
So Hayward's at the top, Stokes outside him. Hammond rotating round out on the left.
Hayward. And they win the long corner.
Another touch given. I mean, interesting, really geeky technical point, but the goalkeeper there has done a reverse drop. Normally on a barrier save, the goalkeeper would go down to their right-hand side with an open stick. Goalkeeper's gone to the left.
Clark, and then the slip across the circle.
Well, Hayward's not going to score many open tip-ins from the penalty spot in his international Masters career. Far more renowned for the strikes on the penalty corners, but he's stayed up there and he's nudged it into an empty net from 7 metres away.
And the most important thing, he's got there late.
Well, there was an acceleration into it, wasn't there? So the corner itself had broken down a little bit on the top of the D. They'd got the restart. They'd come out to the left-hand side, and it was a measured pass across. It's all you want from your players in that. As the angle narrows, open the wrists, fire it across. It's so simple then to accelerate onto that forehand.
So Hayward scores for England. That's his third goal of this tournament. And it's from open play. So where to now for Wales? Found themselves 2-0 down. Second quarter.
Well, if we look at where they've got to over the course of this game so far, the most success they've had down left-hand side 2 or 3 times. We've seen it working that left-hand side, a slightly longer ball to the T-spot. The issue is, have they got the ability to attack as a unit? It feels like for England there's always 4 or 5 players involved when they attack. They manage to get the midfield up to support the front line, whereas for Wales, it does feel it's a little bit spread out.
So England break out again. They've got Morris and Avery up high. And Avery just can't collect.
Also going back to Avery and his injury. So he played in the divisional tournament back in the UK, had some problems with his back, then went out to Bilbao with this side to train and came back from there, and 2 days later found himself in A&E in hospital, emergency operation for a prolapsed disc, and he's been doing 5 to 6 hours of rehab. It shows how seriously players take this competition, wanting to play for their countries, to do that rehab, to get here to play what will be potentially 7 games in 10 days.
So England transfer the ball wide. Good turn from Morris. Morris always looking to take on defenders.
But that's one of those things, Mo, that surely having, and you'll answer this far more than I will, as you cut back in, you square your defender up, and that's when you almost want to go again. As soon as you get that defender set, hips are almost square to you, that's when the chance is to go around the feet, surely.
So Hayward on the ball. Finds Clark, who does well.
That's a lucky touch in there as he swang round. Barry Dunn, He got the first touch. Morris tried to drive his left foot, and he has literally flashed at it with a stick that if he'd missed the ball, it's got corner written all over it.
Morris again finds the foot and a short corner to England.
So down beneath us, what Pendle's saying is just rotate the pressure every time we find that right-hand side. Another 5 metres, another 5 metres, and you do. It's phases of play, isn't it? And you understand, we both do. We've seen it before when a team's been dominating against us. Actually, it's fine. If they attack once and they attack hard and then they back away, that's okay. You can cope with that. It's one phase. But it's when you go, right, it's in and then it's back out again. It's in and it's back out again. Those multiple phases are grueling to defend against.
So here it is. Short corner for England. Hayward at the top, strikes it into the keeper, reward. What England have done well is their strikers have run into space very well, but when they've received the ball, they've done the simple things right. They've got it onto their front stick, they've moved into space, they've looked to attack the wide areas and win corners.
The only thing with this is that Hayward, I don't know if he's seen what the goalkeeper's doing, but Hayward is striking to what would be a goalkeeper's normally footside channel, which is where there's a gap. The goalkeeper's lying down the other way, so the gap is actually at the other post.
So is there a variation here? Hayward looks to play left. The strike is on a goal.
Avery finishes it. That's off the slip. He had all the time in the world. Once Hayward had drawn the #1 flyer, he's just rolled it under his arm, and well, he had a couple of weeks to finish that off.
So good finish for England. Avery finishes from the left, from a short corner variation. And it's 3-0 to England. So England under a little bit of pressure here from Smith.
Oh, Trevordow needed to give that earlier. Hayward was in the right place. Yes, there was only a metre, and that's a loose ball across the top from
Richards wins the ball for Wales. Looking for support, but it's a speculative pass. Morris does well to win the ball. Paxton.
It's now with 5 minutes to go until half-time. A little bit of fatigue starts to creep in. The sun's getting higher, the pitch is getting hotter out there. And we've just seen in that last 2 or 3 minutes, just the error rate, the conversion, the pass completion starts to fall away a little bit. A couple of loose ones from England.
Beautiful ball, that.
Paxton nearly found himself on the edge of the circle with the ball rolled off from Morris with a chance to shoot. Again, unusual position for him to be right up on the top of the circle. But that does show how England are rolling their deeper lines through and higher.
So a little deflection there. And a goal is awarded.
Well, the umpires are being encouraged to talk to themselves. I've got to say, initially it did look like Richie, who sat on the floor in the middle of the circle, the ball came up past his shoulder. There was a contest on the ball in that we were a little bit obscure because of the nature of the angle of it. That's what then popped up and hit the crossbar and came down again. The goalkeeper hacks that back to the halfway line. Genuinely
so
unhappy, Adrian Hibbert.
Another goal. I think that might be accredited to Avery, is that right?
I think it was Morris actually who got the final touch. It seemed like he was high up on that left-hand post. Dover steps in and gives a pretty strong nudge to Richards. Oatley dwells, gets turned over, and Wales now exploiting that little bit of indecision.
So 3.5 minutes out. England 4 up at this stage. Laird winning ball in the midfield, plays it out Paxton. Paxton now playing more on the right-hand side of the field, out to Brown.
Oh, but look at the numbers. This is when England have to make a good choice. They do. Tactically, that's the right decision. You've got 2 players working right-hand side against 4 Welsh defence. England now have transferred, and this is where they have space as Wales struggle to get all the way across the turf.
And they found the foot already, advantage being played, and they win the corner. Well, that was just brilliant, wasn't it? They played it to Brown, back into Paxton. Paxton goes wide, and there's the space, win the corner.
it's textbook, isn't it? I mean, it's absolutely bog standard coaching manual. You go down one side, you look at the defence collapsing towards the ball. It was 2 of the England attackers against 4 defenders, 1 pass out, and you've got an absolutely incisive lateral transfer, which gave Stokes the space in the circle to win the corner. And at this level, particularly end of a half, the fatigue in a defence is such, you simply can't get there.
Corner comes in, trap is good. They look to play a little zigzag there, but they just find the foot of the Welsh defender.
Well, Hayward was looking to go outside him again to try and find where Avery was just a few moments ago, but he had absolutely nothing. There wasn't a single player out on his left shoulder, which is why I think he's actually deliberately tried to play that either through the runner's feet or onto the runner's feet to get the reward. England's structure not quite giving him the passing options.
So it's Richards from Wales who is their first wave runner. He was out pretty quickly. Hayward at the top again, goes to the left. And the save comes in from Hibbert.
Oh, Stokes has fired that straight into the big goalkeeper's chest as we come towards the end of this half. I mean, that is where the space is. Wales are running a high flyer at Hayward to try and put pressure on the strike, but there's absolutely no defensive cover off that flyer's right shoulder to cover that pocket, and they're going to have to think about if they put somebody in there.
So Dunn on the ball, gets it out to Paxton. He finds his high runners in Hammond. Hammond holds up well, looks for Clark, can't find him.
That's a quality pass from Paxton as he finds that. You're trying to look and anticipate when you're playing into congested space. He's probably got about a 2-metre window in front of him to float that through, and it has to be floated because Hammond has to accelerate onto it.
So some good interplay now from England. They're starting to make excellent connections out wide, starting to run at the Welsh defence, finding plenty of space, changing angles. Here again, good little run. And the short corner is awarded for an over-robust tackle.
Yeah, I mean, that's one way of describing it. And you can see why. The disengaged umpire, it was a loud blow. We can call it everything. I used to call it agricultural, but a lady called Sarah Juggins, who does the FIH media, criticised me. She works in the agricultural industry and said it wasn't appreciated that I called it agricultural. Therefore, yeah, we'll just go for assertive. Should we look at that?
So England will put numbers up onto the D here for this corner as the hooter it just sounds. Stop comes in. Hayward looks to go right to Hammond. Hammond plays back to Hayward. Hayward scores.
Classic zigzag. They found the space on that right-hand side. You draw the runners out. You be patient. Hammond was very patient. It was good. Took an extra touch, got his eyes up, rolled it in front. Hayward took 2 touches. They had enough time, but a little stun and then a poke into the goal. Well-worked zigzag routine to finish this half.
So England finished the first half 5-0 up. 2 goals from Hayward, a goal from Hammond, and a really, really good first half for England. Please join us after the break for the third quarter, England versus Wales.
That waiting for the gun, the nerves are just too much, thinking about what is about to go down.
There goes the horn to start the race.
No, I think it's really amazing. And now the whole setup and people are dressed up.
We're giving something, I think, to the people. It's just fantastic.
The support on the side of the road is second to none, and that gives you the extra oomph.
Thoroughly enjoyed it. The scenery is beyond what I could imagine. I seriously enjoyed it. I met so many wonderful people on the way.
Really enjoying Cape Town. People seem to really appreciate artwork here, which is really nice.
Come and visit Cape Town. We are waiting for you with open arms. We welcome you here. This will remain a city of hope and opportunity for everyone, not just in Cape Town, but around the country and the world.
And he takes the tape.
Cape Town is open, safe and ready to host you.
We are fascinated by the mindsets and the habits that make individuals and teams perform at another level. Let us be your thought partners and transformational coaches. Are you part of a team and you are wanting to gain insight into what ingredients need to be in the mix to take your team to a whole new level of performance? Partner with us. We want to be your transformational coaches.
So we're getting ready for the second half here. Pool B of the over 50s men's World Cup here in Cape Town. England have dominated this game, scoring 5 unanswered goals. The goals coming through Peter Hayward, who scored 1 open play goal and 1 penalty corner goal. Ian Hammond a field goal, and Nick Morris also a field goal. And then Stuart Avery came with their variation slip flick. So 5 goals to England, who they had already scored coming into this game. 16 goals in this pool. They top Pool B with Germany close behind, who are playing Malaysia next. But they do have a game in hand against Germany, and Stevenson with a flashing stick. Umpire allows that advantage as Francis tries to manipulate ball and look for support.
Well, that's going to be a card. I mean, Stevenson, that is the best look I've seen all tournament, because the umpire had his arm out for the advantage you spoke about. The whistle's then gone because the players stopped. The umpire's blows, but Stevenson has turned round and not a word of a lie. He's pointed to his chest as if to go, who, me? I mean, literally, there hadn't been another play worthy of a big whistle. That brilliant moment of, yes, you, off you go, have a rest.
Roberts plays it back to Richie. Richie Prose plays back to Roberts.
Well, England are holding a flatter line press now, aren't they? Earlier on in the game, they had that horseshoe that they were just trying to step out and ring the ball. Now they're potentially encouraging Wales to come forward. That sort of pass, however, just invites pressure. Really needs to have more pace in it. I'm sure Mark Avoff was trying to put a little more in it, as he did with that.
Roberts again out wide. The unforced error, but umpire waves it on. Richie.
Clever.
England holding their lines very, very well at this stage.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said about a clever press, because you had Morris is just holding the inside, because what he's encouraging Wales to do is try and float that ball forwards, because Steve Paxton's able to step in that front line. He's front marking the winger, so you get immediate turnover. And at this level, that's what the ball's coming back at you 3 or 4 seconds later. Good take, old school turn, back into your stance.
Lovely turn from Clark. Morris on the turn, looks for support, goes back down the left-hand side, gets it out there on that reverse stick, and will look to power his way down to the tee. Comes in on it. Lovely pass to the top of the D. And it... Oh, and a good little 1-2 there, but they just couldn't fire the ball away there. I couldn't see which striker it was there, number 9. Laird, who was up high, the captain.
Well, he must have got a really fine touch on the ball, because there was an aggressive swing that went with it. The ball seemed to go absolutely nowhere, and normally you're going to get that blown for, well, colloquially, a swing and a miss, but just for the danger of swinging a stick and not contacting. But if you just touch the top of the ball, it didn't seem to go anywhere. Little passing from Oakley.
Oh, Paxton gets away with that heavy touch.
Absolutely, gets away with it.
And Dover does well.
Koloff unhappy because he felt that Dover had just flicked his stick out the way as they've tried to play that 50-50. And during the chat that the Wales were having, one of the things that was said, and we can hear them from up here, was to ignore the umpire's decisions and just play to what happens in front of them. And again, it's when you're being beaten, quite often you feel the decisions are going against you.
Janek plays the ball in to Milbank. And a good save from Adam Lewis.
He's read that really well, Lewis, as he stepped in. He's come out big. He's decided he'll go flat. He won't keep his upper body upright in case it's flipped over the top of him. Must have felt there's enough defensive pressure. It was the pass to the far post that was dangerous, and he's come out and swept that ball clear. So basically dual roles of goalkeeping, protecting from the first shot and covering the cross pass.
Paxton
England
out
need
to
width.
Stokes.
Yeah, Stokes is too narrow in that situation, isn't he? He wanted to be back outside to open up the left wing.
Laird looked like he had just twisted his ankle, but he seems okay. So plenty of support to our right here from the Welsh supporters. Find their team 5-0 down. Not as many English supporters out here this morning. We've had wonderful support for the over 45 ladies and the over 45 men as well in both their early morning matches here at Province Career Club. Clark.
But whilst there may not be as much support here, there is support back home, and it shows the value of social media. Toby Mullins, who's been coaching this England over 50 side, who is listening, can't be here. He's coached them all season, but is involved with schools, and therefore his schedule means it's impossible. What he has flagged up, however, is I spoke earlier on about crossovers, and apparently in this competition there are no crossovers. This is a straight requirement to win the pools to make it to the final, so goals absolutely crucial. My error early, so thanks for that. Thanks for listening, Toby.
Mellot does well, finds space, runs in on the angle, past the left foot. It'll be a long corner.
That's one of those ones that you then think back in your mind and go, was the original pass inside the D? It wasn't. Nobody's appealed for it, but it wasn't far out the circle.
The turn from Clark. Out wide, looking to manipulate ball, get to find themselves a corner. It doesn't. He dribbles it over the baseline. Frustration.
Wales having to be so careful deep in defence. It really did look like that final reaching tackle from Darren Richards took him to the turf, and it's one of those ones that if it then hits your body, what's the umpire interpretation? If it's perceived to be a deliberate foul in the circle, A, you're going to pick up cards, but B, there is that potential for a penalty stroke interpretation.
Hammond on a good run. Well picked off on the reverse stick tackle, but now under tremendous pressure as 3 English players swarm in on him. Wales still get the ball to the midfield.
Now Koloff in the end gets that, but the ball that floated through again from Richards was onto the penalty spot. It just meant that Adam Lewis had to come out and clear it.
Lindley under the shoulder, ball's free, going to get the shot away, good save, and the rebound. So Lewis makes an initial save, there's the rebound, but
much, much better from Wales. There was real composure around the top of the circle as the skipper, Martin Lindley, just carried that, held it, saw the channel, and floated it in to that area around the penalty spot. Intelligent play.
Morris carries down to the left-hand area, changes the point of attack, looks wide to Hammond. Hammond turns, just looking for a strike partner, looking for Dunn on his outside, just can't get it to him. Laird out wide, pass comes in, and the hit against England, as Dunn does well just to defend those lines for Wales.
Richie's down as well in the circle for Wales. Just needs a little bit of help there. He's gone through 2 really, really difficult phases as a defender. I can remember back to the top of his circle and 5 metres out when he's managed to work his way through 2 or 3 players. Had to be really, really strong. He gets up and he's limping himself away.
So Avery's back up front for England. Wales try, go over the top. Poor execution into Hammond. Hammond keeps control under a lot of pressure from the Welsh defenders. England will come out again.
That's a good touch, a recover tackle from Stevenson, who'd missed the first ball because it just bobbled off top edge. And you can hear England as well talking about wide, because it does feel that they do get a little bit compact, a bit ball focused in that final third of the pitch. Everybody kind of gravitates towards the circle. And in fact, if they can just some classic high left and right wing positions.
So it's Morris on the turn. Probing, looking for support. Goes wide, which is better. This is how they played in the second quarter, and they've got good purchase for that. And a short corner given as Avery is upended in the D.
Well, and this is where is there going to be a bit of chat? Because there's a second blow on the whistle. It was a corner. You could argue that Richie's gone to ground and taken a forward down, but this looks like, is this the captain's being called in? No, this is off. This is all about off the ball.
So Lindley is there for Wales, and Ian Hammond.
Well, I thought it was the captain's being called in, but Hammond's not the captain, so unless they've been called in for a particularly different reason. It does feel like more players are going to the turf, though, and sometimes you do want the umpires to bring people in and go, look, I want to keep 11 players on the pitch for both teams. You just need to know where the line is at this moment as you get tired.
So it's Clark with the injection. It's Brown at the top of the D. 2 wide, well, 3 wide runners, and a slip to the left. The slip comes.
That's good flick from Avery, but Wales have then changed their keepers again, and that's a good save as it came in from Craig Jones. Has picked that big left hand. Avery's basically flicked it straight at his face, to be fair.
Well, exactly the height that you want it at as a keeper.
Height and direction, just flick it at me, then I don't have to move.
Just stand and parry it away. England through, done. And they win themselves another corner.
Richie, in the middle of the Wales defence, is getting battered. He's on the floor, he's tackling, the ball's hitting his body. Fair play to him. He just consistently in the right place to cause a problem. He's asking the questions, which is kind of all you can do in a game when the opponents have been pretty dominant, creating multiple chances. It's just about keep taking a breath, keep trying to be mobile, keep giving it everything. At some stage, we will see him subbed off because he'll be a broken man.
So as we wait for the corner to be taken, England just retrieving the ball. Clark again with the injection. Hammond has gone to the left. Avery on the slip. 2 wide runners to the right. Avery on the left slip. Hammond into from the left. The zigzag comes back into Avery. Avery looks to play far post.
Well, it's come off a foot on the way through. England a little bit disappointed that they weren't given the advantage because Dave Oatley on that far post, desperate for his first international goal in this competition.
Well, it was Morris in the first half that had that chance to score, and the whistle went, and now it's Oatley who had an opportunity, and he just to get his name on the scorecard.
Hayward's back in for this one. He's stepped up to take over from Brown.
Avery's still on the left slip. It goes. Hayward will fire in. Good save by Jones. Avery on the ball now. He gets a second touch, and
it's that Dover, I think, who's picked that, the deflection as he jogs back. I don't think it made its way forward to as far as Oatley on the far post. It is
Dover who gets a little reverse stick touch on that.
That's a nudge through and past Craig Jones, unfortunately for England's 6th. I mean, it is consistent pressure. Wales have done well to hold out for the first 12 minutes of this third quarter under consistent England attacks, but it's that second phase. There's a big tackle in there, and Dover, the goal scorer, who's, well, it's not, it's Hammond, who's been yellow carded for that tackle. Put a stick out, and there was a 50-50, but I didn't read that as a yellow to start with. I mean, you can interpret it as a green quite happily if 2 players just putting sticks in, but I think his phrase as he sat down was, "I find that staggering."
Well, he used to be an English schoolmaster.
It's a beautiful, polite turn of phrase.
I also heard him say, "I think I got the ball."
That is a matter of opinion.
The turn from Wales, Smith.
Oh, gutted. It was a fabulous turn, wasn't it? And it's one of those moments, that's tired legs. It's a big man, Smith, and he's turned himself round. He's accelerated away, and in doing so, foot cadence and ball carrying not quite getting in sequence, and it's then a big left boot as he comes through.
Paxton to Hayward. Hayward into Stevenson. Stevenson under a little bit of pressure as his first touch lets him down, but they recover nicely. Ball out wide for England.
Wales still working consistently hard. I mean, that time Tim Bartlett out on the left-hand side doing everything he can just to shuffle and shuttle himself around to put pressure on that England right side and deny the distribution point.
So England still have the ball. Ball was played into Dover, comes with a Welsh stick, so it's England ball on the sideline. And Dover will take the quick hit to himself, looking for Avery up high. Good flat tackle from Ritchie. Out wide to Richards.
Absolutely crucial for Wales now. They do what they just did there. Those that three-pass sequence, get it, give it. Play the pass that you see straight away. Don't dwell on it, because you're then allowing an opponent that's dominating both scoreboard and territory to get the possession, to put the pressure on. Get it and move it on. Take half a second off the decision-making process, gives you a chance.
Wales go long again. They can't find their strikers. Mopped up by Brown, who finds Paxton. Paxton to Hayward. Stevenson, who was moving out of the zone, but gets the ball. Two Welshmen around him, does well to get the ball out wide to Brown.
Shows the importance that a ball from fullback to centre midfield at any time, you've really got to focus on forehand to forehand, because Stevenson was leading across, wasn't he, right to left. The ball from Hayward behind him. He got himself out of it, absolutely, but it makes it so high risk the minute you're rotating and trying to pick on your backhand.
I didn't think he wanted the ball. I think he was moving out of that zone to try and create some space.
Agreed. And Hayward's floated it in anyway. Good take.
Dover.
Oh,
the infringement there and should win the hit.
Yeah, well, he just needs to
for
be careful,
Wales,
doesn't he? Because Stevenson's already had a green down this side.
Dover wins the hit on the top of the D. After receiving ball from his skipper Laird, Hayward fires in. And Stokes just trying to get a little touch on that, but just can't.
Really good chat from the back from Adam Lewis. As he's calling his defence, what he's looking at is he's looking at the number of the Welsh attackers away out of shot now. They've got two attackers in the high zone of the pitch. There's three England defenders. They've counted the numbers, which means they can release one of the halfbacks and step forward.
Good work from Morris here as he goes through. Oh, and it's penalty stroke.
That's just not a fundamental. Oh, from here, I disagree. I don't. And that's given as a 10-minute yellow for taking Morris down. Ritchie, tired, has gone in from the left-hand side. You can only suggest that the interpretation is that he's gone across Morris as Morris has it under control. I thought Morris got the shot away, which is why I thought there was an advantage given, and it had just bobbled away from an English possession perspective was good, but maybe it is that interpretation that we've spoken about earlier. You go to ground, you try and make the tackle.
So Morris with the flick. It's saved. Well, Jones makes a very good save for Wales. Sorry, it's number 21. I think it's Hibbert. Is Hibbert back on?
No.
It's Jones. Oh, it is Jones. 22. There we go.
Good save, but to be fair, I'll be critical here from Morris. That's a poor stroke. You've gone mid-height to the goalkeeper's right-hand side. If you were going to put a diagram across a goal of where a goalkeeper wants it, that is where they want it.
So, end of the third quarter. England 6-0 up. I just feel that they need to go back to basics in the second quarter, and the way they were firing in goals, finding their strikers up high, they just played a little bit too direct in this third quarter. But 6-0 up. Join us for the fifth quarter after the break.
We are fascinated by the mindsets and the habits that make individuals and teams perform at another level. Let us be your thought partners and transformational coaches. Are you part of a team and you are wanting to gain insight into what ingredients need to be in the mix to take your team to a whole new level of performance? Partner with us. We want to be your transformational coaches.
So we're back for the fourth quarter of this over 50 match in the World Cup here in Cape Town. England 6-0 up versus Wales. So the restart underway.
Well, and with Wales down a player, well, England are still down a player with Hammond off as well, but once that changes, they're going to probably have 6 or 7 minutes with an additional player in the final quarter of a game they're dominating. This pool could go down to goal difference. So therefore, they absolutely need to understand the spaces that are presented. They need to look at a 5 or a 6 pass transfer to break down the Welsh defence, because they're going to sit back and play almost on third court, to be honest. Got to be patient, got to play wide, then they got to come back in the middle. I don't think they can come back in the middle until they've crossed the 25-yard line, because that'll then pull the defence wide and give them those inside passes.
As you say, going into this game, Germany have a game in hand, even though England are on top of the pool. But they had a goal difference of 16 as opposed to England's goal difference of 14. Good that England have scored 6 unanswered goals. Germany playing Malaysia next.
And that's such an unknown, but Malaysia, they lacked a bit of physicality in the earlier game against England, and I think they'll be fatiguing as this competition goes on, so they could easily get opened up.
So it was Laird to Stevenson. And a brilliant goal from Clark, who picks it up on the far left-hand corner, smashes it past the near post.
Well, again, you look at where the space was. They've gone down one side, they pulled the defence, they've collapsed it to the ball, they've then popped it laterally. Great strike from Clark, to be fair, right inside that left-hand post. Goalkeeper can't get his toes out there, beaten on the stretch. It was a really nice, clean connection. Good ball transfer, good movement. Clark for England's 7th. And this comes back to your earlier comment, Murray, about how England have scored through multiple different players. So important they're not focused on one particular outcome. It's not just corners. If I reflect on watching the England over 45s, whilst they've been winning their games, they have been heavily reliant on penalty corners. And there has to be a concern for them. And I've commentated on twice now this competition that their field goals aren't quite coming yet. Whereas here, for the 50s, such variety of goal scorers.
So that's a good sign for England that they have, as you say, multiple players that can score goals. I've been impressed with their front three. They've worked manfully. They've got themselves into space. Laird just trying to find Laird.
Yeah, only trying to find Laird. It's just one of those, again, we've coined it several times. That's a hamstring breaker. So I'm going to flick it out there. We're 4 goals into the tournament. My brain thinks I can get there. My hamstrings probably don't. And I don't need to run it down, to be honest. It's a self-recognition of going, that's okay. I can let that one go.
Quite an interesting stat that Anton Maas of the Dutch side is the top goal scorer in this competition of over 50s, and he's got 11 field goals.
Is that the same team that won one of their earlier games 22-0? Because if it is, then so be it. That doesn't count. If it is against the Spirit of Masters teams, and just for clarity, there's several teams here that are not the full A international sides. They're the B sides from various countries, because they've got an exceptional number of players in an age group, but they are coming in. There are slightly weaker opponents. The points of those games don't count. They don't carry through, and the results are then manipulated to make it fair for everybody. But yes, there was a Netherlands result, 22-0, in a pool in this competition. But with all the pools, I have no idea which pool it was, and I'm not going to profess to doing so.
So Laird on the ball now. Finds support. Paxton gets the quick ball away. Avery's upended. Now, to me, that could even be a deliberate infringement in the 23 and a short corner awarded to England. Ball fired in.
That's a good ball in from Stevenson's better from England. If they get into that position where they're able to go through Clark out to Stevenson or down the right-hand side, find the overlapping run of Brown possibly, that's when that little diagonal incisive ball, and then you're attacking the outsides of the circle with really good pace and intent.
So good width from England. They'll get themselves a long corner.
But that sums up what I was talking about earlier on. So as Brown's picked that, he's run. There's 3 steps and 2 touches. If you do 2 steps and 1 touch, that ball is under into the circle without any degree of competition on the pass. It still has to be immediate if England want to find those spaces into the deep.
Paxton, Hayward out wide. So well read by the Welsh defence. Reading that line from Hayward, who's looking for Clark.
Now the high press comes. 5 players from England in that defensive picture. Trevor Doan coming all the way across in there. They're having to go for the overhead. Clark picks. That's the pressure that creates turnover. Be aggressive. Step into the hole.
Paxton now, there's space outside. Brown on his outside, but he decides to go left. Oh, and the execution of that ball that was meant to go for the far post. Just not good enough. Paxton again. Decides to go to Brown, now wide. Who has Dover running for support. Decides to go back to Paxton. Difficult ball for Hayward to retrieve. Paxton had enough time to actually pick that up, pick his pass.
Well, it will be interesting to see if England can replicate the space on the right-hand side that they found on the left-hand side. The last 2 or 3 minutes, they've been able to just keep the ball in the middle. They've then looked to go right, they've held it, and they've gone left.
Avery rolls it into the path of Dover, who is pushed in the back and wins a corner for deliberate infringement.
Well, Tim Bartlett, the Wootton Under Edge player from the West Country, the town of the school where I went as a boy, has come back in there. And I think, again, that was called by the disengaged umpire, because as he's come back in, it didn't look like a heavy challenge, to be fair. And Dover, through his Premier League career, has ridden and caused far harder collisions than that.
But he gets the ball and he realizes there's pressure on him, and he finds a little nudge in the back and decides, well, I'm going over. Let Hayward do the work. So Hayward at the top of the circle. Comes in with the hit, too high, danger, and Wales will have a 16-yard hit.
Oh, that's unusual for Hayward. He's such a clean striker of the ball, and he knows he's just pulled his hands inside that. He's tried to pull him in to go bottom left-hand corner, but hasn't closed the face enough, so he's sliced underneath it, pushed it high and wide past that right post.
So Hammond on the ball. Tries to work his way into the D and wins England a penalty corner. Pushes it in behind the defender, and defender blocks him and wins the corner.
Yeah, and I think that's, again, we've talked about interpretations all the way through. I find that really interesting, because I don't think the ball that was threaded through, Hammond would have got anywhere near it. So consequently, that's not, to me, the decision the corner was given. We can't see it from here, but all you can perceive is the defender then rotated into Hammond to knock him off the baseline. That, however, is cardable.
So Avery again to the left. Do they go for the slip? They do, and it's well played. Avery slides that into the corner of the goals. Beautifully executed. Lots of pace on that.
And if that's deliberate, that's a really intelligent finish, because Wales have changed their goalkeepers again. They put Adrian Hibbert back into the goals, and he likes to dive to his left-hand side. We've seen him do it on corners. That's his favoured position. And if Avery's read that and he knows that the goalkeeper will automatically get his balance going that way, that bottom left-hand corner as he looks past the goalkeeper's feet is the absolutely perfect execution of a slip flick.
You could just see that whole defence shift to the left, and that space opened up, but brilliantly executed slip flick from Avery. So England 8-0 up at this stage.
Well, they
just
won't be
over
hunting
8.
their hat-tricks, but there's a couple of players out there with them. I think it's 3 so far. Certainly 2. Avery's got a pair. Hayward's got a pair. Can't quite see if Morris has got a pair. I've missed one on my sheet.
So who's going to take the match ball home?
No, it's just the two of them, isn't it? Because Clark's got one. As I recount through my notes, Dover's got one. Hammond's got one. Morris has got one, and then a pair each for Hayward and Avery. So it's just those two players. Ex-City of Portsmouth, now Old Georgians, looking to see if they can get the hat-trick and take the ball home. That's a good take, vital take, really well stepped in. Good eye for the ball, Mark Avoth, as he steps in behind Clark.
So Morris threads the ball through to Clark, and he's in open space. No advantage there.
Heyman's the point, surely. They can come back out from that channel. They don't need to go into congestion.
And no decision there, but yes, finally the decision does come. Comes off Avoth's body. So penalty corner once again to England.
Again, good communication between the umpires. It's a support umpire who's seen the angle on that. The disengaged supporting official. Two officials for the game. We've got Tim Garner and Chester Jordan, both from South Africa.
So Hayward once again at the top for First Castle. Comes in, goes for the zigzag, comes back to Hayward. Hayward slides it. Oh! Comes in behind Clark, and he just can't gather and collect and put it onto his front stick. He has to attempt a reverse stick snatch at it almost.
That zigzag that England do, it looks like it'd be more comfortable almost as a for Hayward to let it go. So it's coming back in from Hayward. He's run through, and that's really compacted the defence on the penalty spot. If he just drawbridges that and let it go, they'll have about an hour to try and finish it behind him.
So Wales finally find themselves up in England territory in the final quarter of England territory.
Oh, Milbank and Farquharson have got to find a little bit of interchange. Clark stepped in there with an upright stick, and Wales now have absolutely got a shuttle, and it's tired legs as they try and chase Morris.
Stokes out wide. Looks to play to Clark. Clark gets a shot away, and it's a goal. Well, he's finished well. It's his second field goal today, and he's really finished well. He's got the ball out, struck it well, beautifully into the corner. Another goal for Clark. Well worked again down the left-hand side, changing the point of attack, getting it to the top of the D, fired home.
That's all about Stokes, knowing that he could maintain possession. He's held that in that left-hand corner, and in doing so, it just draws defenders to him. Clark can find the space at the top of the circle, as he did. But you're absolutely right. It's the composure on the strike. He's not rushed either of his hits, and he's made sure body's in the right place, take an extra half a second.
Dover to Avery. A little bit of frustration there.
And that's a scream of discontent in the middle of the pitch. Brilliant from Dover.
He does realise they're on 9-0 up.
Correct. But I think he also now plays at Old Georgians in their Masters team with Avery, with Hayward, and they'll know how individuals play. And he's a quality player. He's been around the circuit for a long time. And that passion, I love that bit of passion there. Sometimes for Dover, it boils over into a little, well, some tackles that are a trifle fruity, shall we say. But that's all about knowing that he wanted to put it right on Avery's stick to get him double figures, and he's just missed it.
Paxton to Hayward. Just nicely in and out. Next wave of midfield comes in the form of Clark, the goal scorer. And that's good manipulation of space. Down the line. Laird on the ball, attacks the byline, looks for the foot, looks for the pass, doesn't get it. But that's good play, especially the interplay in the midfield. Players coming in, playing out to the back four, creating space on the outside.
It's exactly what it's manipulation. You've got someone like a Clark in the middle, and he's got it, and he's rolled that in. Oh, and one thing was worth saying is, once again, Richie's just been nailed. He's come back on after his 10-minute suspension. And Wales have actually done really well. They've only conceded a couple in that block of time when they've been down that additional player working insanely hard through the middle channels. I know the scoreline isn't kind to them, but if you look at what the score was at half-time and what they've conceded in the latter stages, at a time when fatigue's been kicking in, fair play as a team, as a defensive unit, full credit.
So another wave of attack from England. Two and a half minutes left in this game. Some tired bodies out there. Avery feels that the ball was played live.
That's absolutely fabulous, because it is that dangerous thing, isn't it? The defenders sometimes go, I'll try and take a cheeky quick one. They touch it because they want to get the ball away, and then suddenly realise all the options get shut down. And actually, it's been played. You've made the choice to get it in play. So I can understand why Avery will go, he's just asking the question of the umpires. Going, is he taking that? Is he trying to be a bit clever?
Farquharson out left for Wales. Turns, looks for support. Finds Milbank. Milbank just under pressure from Clark. Dover plays for safety. Hayward. Oatley.
He threatened that disguised ball under his arm to Dover. You could see it because Dover was out on that right-hand side. Pop it 45 to find Dover first phase.
Dover with good ball down the line. Laird again, who's been alive wide down that right-hand side. Just once again trying to win a corner. Good pressure again from Laird. Ball played into the midfield and space out right for Wales.
An absolute scream of a call from Darren Richards on the right-hand side. If they could have found him.
Intercepted by Clark. Back to Paxton. Paxton looks to release through the middle to Brown. Brown out wide to Dover. Dover finds his skipper, Laird.
Well, it's interesting how sometimes that the players that you recognise through a game have had the greatest impact. And I know Clark scored a couple of goals, but if we were picking man of the match, for me, from an England perspective, he's been such a dominant force through the middle channels. England defence haven't really been put under much pressure, but he's gone all the way back within 30 metres of his own goal and also got himself right up to the track to score a couple. But it's his distribution, interception, elimination that's been so strong and consistent.
I agree with you, and his work rate back into that midfield, as you say, has been fantastic. Now another opportunity for Laird.
Well, for the man who was the top goal scorer for the England side coming into this game, he's had a couple of shocking touches in the circle. He just looked disappointed then. The shoulders were down, a bit deflated.
And there's the hooter. And the completion of this match, England decisive winners 9-0 against their neighbours, Wales. Goals by Peter Hayward, one open play goal and one penalty corner variation. A goal, also a field goal from Ian Hammond. Two field goals from Matt Clark, brilliantly executed. Paul Dover with a short corner variation as well, and Stuart Avery with two slip flicks. So your thoughts, Simon, as we finish this game?
Like England handled the ball so well that it meant that Wales really struggled. They didn't have a huge amount of possession. For most of the game, England played with a decent amount of width, which stretches the defence. And then, unfortunately, with a couple of cards, particularly that long 10-minute yellow, England can then find the channels. They executed their corners well. They took the chances. And for Wales, there was a gap in performance today, and it's recognised by the scoreline. They just didn't. They weren't able to get their midfield to support their forwards, and it was just a little bit too hard physically and technically today.
So well done to England. 9-0 winners. The next game coming up is Malaysia versus Germany. Please join us after the break.